nor do even the most sickly patients find your presence unbearable and beg for death to come." The girl swiped her hand through the air, slashing my cheek and lip. A growl rumbled deep in my throat. She cocked one thin brow, as if to say she'd be happy to keep slicing me up like a juicy ham, but my cousin Ander jogged over from the nearby stables. The crest-shaped carnelian elicrin stone hanging above his navel captured the sunlight so as to twinge my pride a bit. "Is he bothering you, Valory?" he asked. "Is he ever not?" Melchior's companions bowed their heads and shifted behind their leader. What was it about Ander that made him so regal and imposing? I possessed as much royal blood as he, and stood closer to claiming the throne than Melchior. But others did not instinctively bow their heads in my presence, much less do my bidding. In fact, they seemed to have no qualms about making mincemeat of me. "I trust you will allow Valory to reach her next lecture and her birthday celebration on time, without further harm?" Ander gave Melchior a pointed look, but it wasn't without pity. Melchior was the one cracked egg out of a dozen, the family outcast, and that hadn't changed when he became an elecromancer. "Yes, of course. Are you quite all right, Valory? I admit that got out of hand." Melchior glared at his henchwoman as he said this. Her face flamed under Ander's gaze, and she hurried to pick up my satchel and books. She was not only a new pupil, but a peasant from a far village. Joining an elicromancer academy studded with royals was no doubt intimidating. I watched the realization dawn. She had too swiftly chosen her allies. I would forgive her. Melchior's accomplices usually abandoned him after they realized that being royal didn't make one right. Eyes down, she passed off my muddy satchel. Melchior placed a hand on my face to heal me, but I jerked back and spat blood onto his boot. "Come on," Ander said, ushering me away. "You'll be late for your lecture." We turned our backs on Melchior and his gang, strutting over the spongy grass. The rain clouds had begun to scatter, revealing a slate of cornflower blue. The palace stretched over the green fields, a pale mountain with a river running through it, and wine-red flags waving sinuously from its parapets. The academic wing stood apart from the palace, joined to it by an arcade strewn with ivy. "Melchior never learned why it was wrong to cut off a kitten's tail and regrow it," Ander said as we walked. "Since he can immediately fix something he's broken, I suppose it doesn't make sense to him not to break it." "I don't care what does and doesn't make sense to him," I said, at last succeeding in unclasping my cloak. "His heart is a rock and his brain is a pebble. I don't see why the water didn't just swallow him whole." "Maybe it didn't want him." Ander smiled down at me, his fair cheeks ruddy. The levity in his grey eyes revealed that he hadn't a care in the world. He stood fourth in line to the throne of Calgren, and these were untroubled times. Perhaps he will have some use yet. With a gift like that, surely he will be useful whether he wants to be or not. I shrugged, noticing as I did so that I smelled of sweat and sludge. Ander had just returned from a hunting trip planned in preparation for my birthday feast, but his dark hair still smelled of fine, fragrant oils. "Are you sure you don't want him to heal that cut?" he asked as we parted ways. "I'd kiss a wild horse on the hoof before I'd let Melchior touch me again," I said, joining the other late pupils, scurrying from one lecture to another. Ander shook his head and strode toward the entrance to the palace, ignoring the fawning looks my peers cast his way. With a gentle dab at the stinging cut on my lip, I sauntered to my elicrin history and folklore lesson. Professor Windwood had already begun his lecture and shot me a disapproving look from beneath feral grey eyebrows before proceeding. I draped my ruined cloak on a hook and hurried to my seat next to Nox Rodenia near the tracery windows. Most people I met were taller than me, but Nox's hefty build made him seem especially towering. He was strong yet a bit cushy, with kind green eyes, fawn skin and agreeable features. "I would say happy birthday,"